Hey everyone! 3 days ago, on May 15th, Starbucks made an announcement that should be on the front page of every newspaper in America. The company is cutting 300 corporate jobs. It is closing offices in Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and Burbank, California. It is absorbing $400 million in restructuring charges. And it is moving 2,000 corporate employees out of Seattle, Washington, and into Nashville, Tennessee over the next 5 years. More than half of Starbucks' entire Seattle corporate workforce gone to Tennessee. And here is the detail that the mainstream media is completely burying. Washington state just passed a 9.9% millionaire income tax. And Howard Schultz, the man who built Starbucks from a single Seattle coffee shop into a 35,000 location global empire, bought a $44 million penthouse in Miami the same day that bill passed. Now the company he built is doing the same thing he did, just on a much larger scale. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what Starbucks is doing, why Seattle is watching its most iconic brand slowly walk out the door, and what 2,000 jobs moving from Washington to Tennessee means for every city in America that thinks it can keep raising taxes and keep its biggest employers at the same time. Hit that subscribe button. This one goes deep. Let's get into it. Let's start with the numbers, because they tell the entire story before a single politician gets to spin it. May 15th, 2026, Starbucks CEO Brian Niccol announces the company's third round of corporate layoffs since taking over in 2024. 300 jobs eliminated across all corporate divisions. Offices in Atlanta, Chicago, Dallas, and Burbank, California permanently shut down. $400 million in restructuring charges hitting the balance sheet. $120 million of that going directly to employee severance. And then the sentence that should make every elected official in Washington state stop cold. The company is simultaneously opening a corporate office in Nashville, Tennessee, that will employ up to 2,000 people within 5 years. Let that math sink in. Starbucks is eliminating 300 positions and closing 4 regional offices, while building an entirely new corporate hub in Tennessee, large enough to absorb more than half of the company's remaining Seattle workforce. This is not a company in crisis mode, making desperate cuts. Starbucks' same-store sales in the U.S. are showing signs of recovery under Niccol's turnaround plan. This is a company in the middle of a successful restructuring that has made a deliberate, strategic, long-term decision about where it wants to operate. And the answer is not Seattle. The answer is Nashville. Now here is where the political dimension becomes impossible to ignore. And this is the part that should concern every voter in Washington state. Washington does not have a state income tax. But in 2022, Washington implemented a 7% capital gains tax. And then in 2025, they added a 2.9% surcharge on gains over $1 million, bringing the effective rate to 9.9%. And then in March 2026, the Washington State House of Representatives passed a 9.9% income tax on anyone earning over $1 million a year in a 25-hour marathon session, the longest in state history, 52-46, nearly along party lines. And on the exact same day that vote came in, Howard Schultz, the billionaire founder of Starbucks, closed on a $44 million penthouse in Miami and announced he was leaving Seattle after nearly half a century. He did not make a statement attacking the tax. He did not hold a press conference. He posted a warm LinkedIn note about sunshine and family and his next adventure. And buried near the very end, one sentence: "It is our hope that Washington will remain a place for business and entrepreneurship to thrive." That was not a farewell note. That was a warning shot. And now the company he built is firing the same warning shot. Not with a LinkedIn post, with 2,000 jobs moving to Tennessee. Tennessee has 0 state income tax. 0. Not lower. 0. For a Starbucks vice president earning $300,000 a year in Seattle, moving to Nashville means keeping an extra $27,000 to $30,000 every single year, just from state taxes alone. Over a decade, that is $270,000 to $300,000 in additional take-home pay for doing the exact same job. And Nashville's cost of living is dramatically lower than Seattle's. Housing is more affordable. The regulatory environment is simpler. Tennessee has been aggressively courting corporate relocations for years, and it is working. Oracle moved its headquarters to Nashville. Amazon has a major presence there. And now Starbucks is building what will become a major corporate hub in a state that decided to compete for jobs rather than tax them away. This is not complicated. This is arithmetic. And arithmetic does not care about political ideology. But here is the human cost of this decision that nobody is connecting. A 21-year Starbucks corporate veteran spoke out on the Jason Rantz show on Seattle Red 770 AM this week. He asked to remain anonymous. He said his role was eliminated because of the reorganization tied to the Nashville expansion. He was never offered the chance to relocate. The move to Nashville actually came with restructuring of roles, which actually led to layoffs, he said. I was unfortunately one of those folks that my role was eliminated. 21 years, not offered a relocation, just gone. And he is one of 300. And those 300 are on top of the 1,100 jobs nickel cut in February 2025, the 900 jobs cut 7 months after that, and the additional Seattle store closures that eliminated 69 more barista and shift supervisor positions in March 2026. Since Brian Niccol took over in September 2024, Starbucks has now cut more than 2,300 corporate positions and is in the process of moving its center of gravity from a city that has spent decades building its identity around being the home of Starbucks to a state that said, "We want your jobs and we are going to make it worth your while to come here." And Seattle has every reason to be alarmed, because Starbucks is not the only thing leaving. Amazon has relocated thousands of employees out of Seattle proper to Bellevue and other King County locations. The downtown Seattle office vacancy rate hit over 30% by the end of 2025, a record high. The head of the Downtown Seattle Association said directly it was attributable to the city's increasingly aggressive tax burden on businesses. Seattle's attorney Joe Wan, who represents startup businesses, testified against Washington's millionaire tax bill and said the most devastating effects would be the companies and entrepreneurs who simply never come to Seattle in the first place. You can count the businesses that leave. You can never count the ones that would have arrived but chose somewhere else. And every time a company the size of Starbucks announces it is moving 2,000 jobs to Tennessee, every startup founder in the country who was considering Seattle takes note. The coffee shop near Starbucks headquarters loses its morning rush. The dry cleaner loses its after-work crowd. The apartment buildings near the old offices see demand soften. The tax base that funds Seattle's schools and roads and services gets a little smaller. And the cycle that has already hollowed out San Francisco and Chicago and Lower Manhattan begins to run in Seattle too. Now, what is Washington State's response to all of this? Governor Bob Ferguson signed the millionaire income tax bill in April 2026, calling it rebalancing our unfair system. Supporters project it will generate between $3.5 billion and $4 billion a year when it takes full effect in 2029. But those projections assume the wealthy stay put, and we already know what happens when they do not. Jeff Bezos left Washington for Miami in late 2023. The moment he was officially a Florida resident, he began selling 50 million Amazon shares worth over $8.7 billion. His estimated tax savings from that single move exceeded $600 million. Howard Schultz left the same day the millionaire tax passed and bought a $44 million Miami penthouse. Now Starbucks is moving 2,000 jobs to Nashville. California's own franchise tax board found that wealthy departures cost the state between $3.5 billion and $4.5 billion per year in permanent lost revenue. Washington is about to learn the same lesson. You cannot project revenue from people who are already deciding to leave while you are counting the money. Here's the broader picture that matters for everyone watching this, regardless of what state you live in. The Starbucks story is not unique to Seattle. It is the same pattern playing out in slow motion in every high-tax city in America. A company builds itself in a city over decades. The city builds its identity around that company. Politicians raise taxes promising to fund services. Drop it in the comments. Are you in Seattle watching this happen? Are you in Nashville watching the jobs arrive? Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what is coming next. Stay informed, stay engaged, and never stop following the money.